Together, we're exploring the intersection of faith, biology, and the signals that shape how we heal.
You'll hear conversations about nervous system safety,
peptides, and cellular communication,
prayer, trust, and what it means to live aligned with design.
No hype,
no pressure,
just curiosity, relationship, and truth.
Welcome to Prayer and Peptides.
Today we're talking about something that so many of us overlook. I know I do, recovery. We live in a world that celebrates constant output, pushing harder, doing more things, but that's not actually how we're wired to thrive.
God designed our bodies with rhythms, cycles of work and rest. There's a time to pour out, and then there's a time to be filled back up. And when we ignore that, our bodies will usually, for the most part, let us know.
And the cool part is recovery isn't just one thing. It can look like stillness, sleep, breath work, nourishment, and even the way we manage stress can create space just to be.
We're going to get into some of our favorite recovery tools, both practical and faith-based, that support your body, calm your nervous system, and help you show up feeling more like yourself.
So whether you've been running on empty, feeling a little disconnected, or just curious how to support your body better, this conversation is for you.
Before we dive in, let's just take a second. This is a space where we get to slow down, breathe, and reconnect. Not just with our bodies, but with the way we are intentionally designed. So, you know what I'm going to ask you to do? It's that time of the week to take a few deep breaths. And I mean that. Let's actually do this. Not as a formality, but as a practice. I want you to breathe in for a count of 4, hold for 4, and do a big, deep exhale all the way out for a count of 6. So let's do one together, and then I'm going to talk to you for a minute while you do the next couple, okay? So in, do that one more time. Drop those shoulders down, really get that breath all the way out. Because one of the most common things that I hear from women is, I don't know how to rest. Even when I stop, my mind doesn't. And what that tells me is that the nervous system has been in output mode for so long, it has forgotten how to receive. So right now, before we talk about recovery tools, before we get into sleep trackers, saunas, and peptides, let's just practice the most fundamental recovery tool there is, your breath. You can do this at any time. If you're driving, keep breathing. If you are running around with kids, keep breathing. Take that intentional time to breathe in, to take the pause, and to exhale all the way. The extended exhale is doing something specific. It's activating your vagus nerve, the main highway between your brain and your body, and it's telling your nervous system that the threat has passed, that it's safe to come down and it's safe to restore. You can also hum during this time. That also is a great, easy way to reset your vagus nerve. So you've just shifted your physiology. It's not a small thing. That's recovery. One signal at a time. And of course, you know I'm going to give you your word of the episode. And you guessed it already, it's recovery. It not only enters you to win some incredible things from us, directly from us, but we want that word to sit differently with you after today's conversation. Because most of us were taught that recovery is what you do when you've earned it. When you work hard enough, you rest. When you push long enough, you take a break. But that is actually backwards from how God designed your body to function. Recovery is not the reward. Recovery is the mechanism. And that's where repair happens, where hormones rebalance, where your nervous system resets, where your muscles rebuild, and where your cells do the work that all of your effort in the day set up. You don't get the results during the work, you get them during recovery. So let that reframe everything we talk about today. So let's go.
All right, so let's talk about why recovery actually matters. I think this is where people get it kind of backwards. We're so focused on what we're doing for our health, like the workouts and the nutrition and the supplements and the peptides. But the truth is that the body doesn't repair and regenerate while you're going. It does that while you're recovering.
Exactly. Recovery is not the reward for working hard. It's actually part of the process. That's where the results come from. When you slow down, your body shifts into a state where it can heal, rebuild, and restore what's been depleted.
And this is built into our design. You know, God didn't create us to run nonstop. We sometimes choose to, but that's not where we were supposed to be. There's a natural rhythm, work and rest, output, restoration. Even from the beginning, we see that pattern modeled for us. It wasn't until I started getting better sleep, especially like seeing these things happen to me, I truly began to understand this concept. I can tell you, as a mom of a special needs son, as a corporate employee, so many times I thought it was natural to keep pushing myself and giving that output that I was never really giving myself the sleep, the restoration, and the recovery time that I needed. When I started making sleep a focus, I started to see better output, not just like in my work, but in my relationships with my children, my husband, and with my faith. And I also was able to take a breath and really find that ease. And that is something that it doesn't mean that I don't at times overwork or overpush, but it does mean that I'm starting to listen more and more to the signals that my body is telling me it's time to recover.
If your body has been sending you signals you haven't known how to read, that's exactly why this show exists. Subscribe so you never miss an episode, and follow us on TikTok, where we break down these tools in short, practical videos. More information, more resources, and more of this conversation, one signal at a time. So for me, recovery is a non-negotiable. I have the reason to take this so seriously because I've watched in both my own body and the women that I worked with what happens when the body finally gets real deep restorative sleep. It is to say the cliche thing, a game changer. It really does change the game, and how different that is from just logging hours in bed. So one of the things that people say to me all the time is, oh, I sleep through the night, but do you get effective sleep? So I equate it to, Amy goes to work and she works from 9 to 5. That doesn't mean she gets everything done in her day that she needs to get done, because she gets interrupted. She's got to go to the bathroom, fires have to be put out, and she doesn't get the things done that she needs to get done, but that doesn't make her day any less effective, right? But that can make our sleep ineffective as well. So here's what most people do not know when they ask, what happens to your body during deep sleep? And this gets searched constantly. It's one of the most Google things when you search for sleep. But the body goes through a specific repair cycle that only happens in deep sleep and the REM cycle. Growth hormone gets released. And I'm not talking about bodybuilding. I'm talking about cellular repair, tissue regeneration, immune function, and metabolic regulation. Your cortisol resets, your brain consolidates memory and clears inflammatory waste through the glymphatic system. There's a big word for you, glymphatic. All right. So your gut repairs its lining, your hormones recalibrate. And none of that happens if you're only getting light, fragmented sleep. So you can be asleep, quote unquote, asleep for 8 hours, but if you're not hitting those deep REM sleep cycles, none of this happens. So you can still be physiologically sleep deprived if you're not cycling through those stages. So last fall, I started an evening peptide specifically designed to lower cortisol in the hours before bed. Y'all know that I'm chronically stressed with overstimulation of cortisol just because everything that's going on in my body. So I hear so many times that women can't get into deep sleep. They lie down exhausted, but their brain is still running. Their body never fully transitions, and that peptide changed my sleep quality significantly. I still wake up in the middle of the night. I track things with my Oura Ring, but I'm hitting those deep 90-minute cycles, and that has made the biggest difference. So one of the most common questions is, how do I know if I'm getting actually good sleep? And the answer is you probably don't without the data. That's where the Oura Ring has genuinely been eye-opening for me. Here's what it tracks. So your total sleep, which is an obvious one. So it'll tell you when to go to bed and tell you when you wake up and how many hours of sleep you got. But it's also the baseline. So the other parts that it tracks is your sleep efficiency. This is the percentage of time in bed that you're actually asleep. Most people assume that they're asleep the whole time. You're probably not. And then next is REM sleep. This is your emotional processing and memory consolidation stage. This is when you wake up feeling emotionally raw or mentally foggy. Low REM is often the culprit. Like, you wake up tired and grouchy. If you're from the South, your mama probably told you that you woke up on the wrong side of the bed, right? Have you ever woken up in the middle of a REM cycle and you're just like irritated and you don't know why? That is why. So, deep sleep. This is the holy grail. This is where physical restoration happens. Most adults get far less deep sleep than they need, and most don't even know it. And then latency, how long it takes you to fall asleep. This is actually a cortisol and nervous system indicator. If it takes you more than 20 20 minutes consistently, your body is not down regulating properly before bed. So this is where a sleep hygiene routine can really come into play. And then last but not least, timing. When you sleep relative to your natural chronotype, this one is fascinating. It collects data over time, and the Oura Ring, you can use your watch, you can use other things, but it will identify your chronotype. Essentially, your biological clock preference for when your body naturally wants to sleep and wake. So when your sleep timing aligns with your chronotype, every other metric improves. When it doesn't, even if you're technically in bed long enough, your body doesn't cycle through the stages efficiently. So I look at my ring data in a way that I look at my health biomarker. It's information. It tells me that my lifestyle choices are actually doing for my recovery, not just what I think that I'm doing. Does that make sense? So we have all of these things, and if you want to start to measure some of these things, having the data really gives you insight about what is available. So if you don't want to do an Oura Ring, there's a Ring-Con, there's your Apple Watch, there's several options of just using a bio tracker, and it can tell you so much about what is actually happening in your body.
Yeah, so I have the Oura Ring and I love it. It is something that I just purchased earlier this year. I used to have an Apple Watch and I really liked my Apple Watch as well. But one of the things about the Apple Watch that I didn't love was that it would just die on me. So when I would put it on at like 6 o'clock in the morning, and I would go throughout my whole workday. And then normally I like to walk in the evenings, especially in the summertime because it doesn't really get dark until like 9 o'clock. So I would go for my walk around 6:45, 7 o'clock, walk until 8. And then during that time, my watch would just die on me. And so all the data that I wanted for my workout and getting all my steps in and all of that, it would just die and I wouldn't get any of that data. And so what I thought was really cool about the Oura Ring is that it like stays charged for days. And so I was really excited about it. One of the other trackers that I used to have was a Fitbit, and I really liked the Fitbit. But then one year for Christmas, Peyton upgraded it and got me the Apple Watch. And so I just upgraded it myself and I got the Oura Ring and I love it. And you said something about the Ring-Con, which I've heard great things about as well. It's a more of a it's a similar ring to an Oura Ring. And I know that it's a little bit cheaper. Well, here's the thing about the Oura Ring is when I purchased it, I asked them if there was a return policy just in case I didn't like the color or, whatever it was. I got mine from Best Buy and they said, oh, yeah, there's a 14-day return policy. And I was like, okay, great. So I get home and I put my ring on and I download the app, which I had to pay a subscription for, which you don't get a return on. And then I start using my ring and I realize that it needs data, sometimes 30 days, sometimes 60 days, sometimes 90 days, just tracking you to give you the actual data. Like you were talking about earlier, the chronotype. It takes I can't remember if it's 60 days or 90 days, but it takes all this time that it watches you, tracks you before it can even give you that data. And so after I purchased it and learned this, I'm like, well, I guess I'm keeping my ring. I'm not going to return it now. So I do like my ring to track my sleep, just like you do, Anna. But there is something that I really enjoy using it for, and that is to track my daytime stress. Because I did not realize that there were things that I do on a day-to-day basis that really causes me stress. And, stress, sometimes a little stress is good, right? We have to have a little bit of that adrenaline, a little bit of that cortisol spike, but not all the time. And so, Amy, I'm wondering, I know you have a ring as well. And I'm wondering, do you also like to track your sleep? Do you like to use the daytime tracker for stress? Like, where are you at on this ring?
So I will be honest, I was all into my ring right in the beginning. I was obsessed with looking at my data. But now I find sometimes I'm ebbs and flows when I actually get really into it again. But when I am tracking, I know that I'm more aware and I'm more disciplined, meaning I tend to make sure I get my steps. I tend to make sure that I'm getting my longer hours of sleep. And I remember to take my sleep peptide, all the things, because I see what happens when I bottom out. Do the interesting thing about the stress, and I think we shared this on one of the episodes and, in our first series, is sometimes with my stress level, when I have nothing going wrong, nothing, I have a pretty high demand, stressful job, it can elevate. And then it could be a time where it is like the normal person would be stressed to the max. I dip down. I'm like, chill. I'm cool as a cucumber. It says like, I'm like not even stressed. And I'm like, what? That is so weird. But that is where I like watch that rhythm. But it really is one thing that my boss, she is amazing at this. Anytime, and she's really worked with me on it, it's anytime something really, really stressful happens, she says to calm your body, immediately calm your body. And it was such a great skill she taught me because she said, people are going to look at you as the leader. And if you're up here and you're stressed, they're going to be even more stressed. So I don't know if that has something to do with it, but as soon as something happens, she's incredible at just being like, and it's like this eerie thing because you're like, why aren't you freaking out? And she doesn't. It's like, so I'm hoping maybe I can be like her a little bit where I'm like doing that. But when I think about the ring and I think about what I track, I think about recovery. What are some of the tools that you both use to make sure you're recovering?
One thing that I really love is my infrared red light sauna. I just recently got it a few months ago and I am in love with this thing. Like I saved up months after months after months because I wanted this sauna. I like researched it. I actually talked to my husband about it many years ago, which he didn't really see the significance of it. And then we got one and now he like, I can't get him out of the thing. I'm like, this is my sauna, but he loves it. And it is such a great way to recover. After standing in the salon all day, my neck starts to kind of hurt. My lower back hurts. I've been kind of hunched over. So it helps, like I need to stretch back. And getting in the sauna is so relaxing. It helps me recover. And the type of sauna that I have is a dry sauna. So there's a wet sauna that uses steam, and then mine is a dry sauna. And it's like infrared red light technology that really heats up and warms your body. And then that red light really goes in and gives you really great pain relief benefits and anti-aging benefits. And it just helps me to relax. I get really good sleep. Plus, it just feels good, especially on a very cold day, which I know I live in Georgia and it doesn't get super cold here, but we do get days where it gets below 30, below 20 every once in a while. And it just feels really good. Anna, I know that you also have a sauna. You actually have had your sauna a lot longer than I have had mine. So how often do you use your sauna?
I do. I'm so glad that you brought this up. I have had my personal sauna, which is sitting right there in the corner between two bookshelves. Mine is not as big as Lauren's. Mine is technically portable, but I don't move it that often. And it is infrared red light as well. And it makes things so much easier when I have a super stressful day or when I'm cold. It's really hard for me to warm up, especially with the Raynaud's where I just circulation in my hands and my feet, even in the summertime. But I will use my sauna at least 2 to 3 times a week. And I am a very bad detoxer. So what does that mean? I mean, I don't sweat. Like it can be 100 degrees on the beach. And after about 2 hours, I'll have like a little trickle of sweat run down my back. I'm not a good detoxer. So that's one reason why I use my sauna all the time. And the more consistent that I am at using it, the more I sweat when I do get outside. But infrared saunas work a little bit differently from traditional steam saunas because the heat penetrates the tissue directly rather than heating the air around you. So we want that near infrared and far infrared because we want that deeper penetration into our tissues, right? So it triggers a very specific physiological cascade. So the heat shock proteins activate, which supports cellular repair, which is why Lauren always sleeps so well. So blood flow increases to the muscles and connective tissue, which accelerates recovery from exercise and reduces inflammation, which is the core reason that I use it. And cortisol, our friend from earlier today, actually decreases and after an infrared sauna session, which is one of the reasons why it's support sleep so well in the evening. And some people can use it in the morning to help wake them up and energize them and get them going for the day. So it kind of works like an adaptogen, but I've been using mine since my personal one since 2019, used similar ones for years in the past, even before that. So go slow. Don't get too hot. Go start with a lower temperature and work up gradually. So going too fast can cause dizziness and dehydration, which is why you need to make sure that you have some of our favorite electrolytes on hand to refuel your salts. Not that you need the sodium, like because you've sweat so much, but it just helps balance everything out. So what you put into practice is what experiences of the real benefit that you will see. So hydration is non-negotiable. So work your way up to a full sweat session. And even if you need to go in for 15 or 20 minutes just to get your body warm, the combination of our evening peptide, your Oura Ring data, and the sauna has genuinely transformed my sleep for recovery cycles. I like to go to bed warm. I don't like to shiver in bed. So none of this is done in isolation. It's all of them working together as a system. And that's what precision wellness actually looks like in practice. And that's how we live our lives.
Did you know that Prayer and Peptides is now available on your favorite platforms? You can catch Prayer and Peptides on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube. So no matter where you are, at home, in the car, at the gym, your next episode is just a tap away. Search Prayer and Peptides, hit follow, and never miss an episode.
I think it's really helpful to have these tools and resources that can help us day to day to be more aware of the activity levels that we have, our stress, our sleep cycles, our habits, and how our body is recovering. Because this is what I know. When we have poor recovery and our stress, our metabolism slows down. And none of us want that. None of us want our metabolism to slow down and we have that weight gain. Oftentimes experience fatigue and even hormonal shifts. And I know as a woman, I do not need any more hormonal shifts in my life. We talked about having trackers like our ring or a watch. Anna, you talked about the use of your eating peptide. I love that same peptide. We've talked about using the sauna. What I'm wondering is, do you guys use any other health apps?
Okay, so I do. I have lots of health apps, but there is this one in particular that I really like, and I use it when I go walk in my neighborhood. It's called Fat Burn. And I think it's like $40 for the year if you wanted to purchase the app. And I would only purchase it if you're going to like work out or walk or get on a bike or something like that. But you can connect the data to your iWatch or your Ring and through your health app on your iPhone. I'm not sure about Android because I'm not an Android user, so I apologize, guys. But I do know through the iPhone, you can connect all your data that way. But what this app does is it tracks your activity. And then it lets you know how much of that activity was actually in fat burning stage. So it gives you a little bit of a percentage and it lets you know how efficient you have been in your activity for the day. So it collects your data all day long and then it breaks it down and lets you know like where exactly you have been in fat burning. So I think it's really cool because it does break it down in 3 different levels. So you have your high level, which is like your high BPM, beats per minute. And that is more like cardio. So think of like if you're running, if you're on a bike, if you're like swimming laps, you have a very high beats per minute, which is very healthy. It's good to have that because you need it for, cardiovascular. But then you have your fat burn BPMs. And that is actually really hard to stay in that. So when I'm walking in the neighborhood and I'm listening to music or I'm listening to a podcast, or sometimes I'll walk with my husband or a friend, we'll just get to walking. And all of a sudden you're walking really fast and that beats per minute goes up and you're like, oh man, you're not in your fat burning zone anymore. So you have to like slow it down. But if you go too slow, then you're also not in your fat burning zone. And so it is very beneficial, especially if you're trying to lean up, drop a little bit of your fat, which I'm always trying to do. I love using it. It is one of my favorite like workout health apps. And I don't know. I don't know if you've even tried it. I've talked about it a lot with a lot of my clients. A lot of people don't know about it, but that is one of my favorite apps. What about you, Anna?
So I have one of my favorite apps, and it's not a fitness app per se, but it is the best app for women's health. And that is my YouVersion app, where I get to listen to the Bible. I'm not using this as a throwaway answer. This is one of the apps that I consistently use all the time, because one of the things that, especially when I get into like fight or flight or imposter syndrome, like, did you know that you can't read the truth and say the truth out loud and think a lie? Isn't that the coolest thing? So you can read the Psalms or the Proverbs out loud. You can read the truths, and it kind of quiets all of that anxiousness that's going on inside. So that has helped with my prayer and my meditation that activates the parasympathetic nervous system and lowers my cortisol. I am always on a mission to keep my cortisol in check, because I know what it's like when it goes off the rails, because my inflammation markers get higher and I feel miserable. So I'm trying to support things from all different angles. So I open up the app before I do anything else in the morning, before I check my messages or emails or Facebook or anything. And I just listen to, you can get a devotional and do a daily devotional if you want to do that way. And I just let it read the chapter to me. And that just puts me in such a place that I start my day with recovery. I set a baseline of which everything else operates, and I slow down and say, what do you want me to see today? What do you have planned? What can I unpack? What gift do you have waiting for me? So that's one of the things that it took a long time to build that practice consistently. And I know that I am handing my nervous system over to the one that created it. And it makes such the biggest difference in my day and my week and my month and my year in the long term.
I really love that. I truly believe that your faith has to be your foundation. So it all builds upon each other. We can have all the tools and resources in the world, right? All the strategies, but without the foundation of our faith, those things only go so far. They don't always work, right? When that's missing, everything just feels incomplete.
If you're enjoying this episode, why haven't you liked or subscribed yet? If you have, thank you. And if you're about to, thank you. So it's a simple way to help us get the message out to more people who are looking to restore their health and live their life on purpose.
As we come to an end in today's episode, ask yourself this question: where can I create more space in my life for recovery? Not as an afterthought, but as a priority.
Because when we honor that rhythm,
your body responds.
And that's when true healing and regeneration happens.
So take time to look at your calendar and start scheduling some time just for you.
Maybe it's going to bed earlier or taking a nap during the day. Maybe it's booking an appointment to a spa, or lower your stress, or taking some deep breaths, just like Anna has us do in the beginning.
Yeah, or maybe you download some new apps on your phone and grab some new tools that help you track the ebb and flow of your day-to-day.
Whatever it is, we hope that today's episode inspired you to slow down and prioritize rest just as much as activity. Until then, stay prayerful,
stay focused,
and live on purpose, one signal at a time.
If something in today's conversation stirred you, send it to the person who came to mind. That's how this message moves, person to person, and we can't do it without you. If you want to stay connected, go ahead and subscribe, like, and turn on notifications so you don't miss what's next. All the resources and goodies are linked in the show notes, and we'd love to continue the conversation with you over on Instagram. Until next time, stay prayerful, stay curious, and keep listening to the signals.
The content shared on Prayer and Peptides podcast is for educational, informational, and inspirational purposes only. This podcast is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease, nor is it a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Discussions around peptides, nervous system regulation, stress, sleep, hydration, and wellness presented as general educational concepts and reflections on the body's design, not as medical recommendations. Always seek the advice of your physician, a licensed healthcare provider, or qualified medical professional regarding any medical condition, symptoms, medication, supplements, or health discussions. Never disregard or delay seeking professional medical advice because of something you heard on this podcast. The host and guests of Prayer and Peptides are not acting as medical providers. Any personal experiences or stories shared are anecdotal and not intended to imply guaranteed outcomes. Spiritual reflections, prayer, and scripture-informed insight are offered as relational and supportive practices, not as replacements for medical or mental health care. By listening to this podcast, you acknowledge that you are responsible for your own health decisions and that Prayer and Peptides assume no liability for actions taken based on the information presented.